What's up everybody, Renfail here, and welcome to today's Baldur's Gate 3 video where I am going to take you through my launch Druid and what I'm going to be playing through my very first playthrough of the game. Now, if you have watched my streams at any point over the last few months, we've been going hard and heavy with Baldur's Gate 3, and I have done a variation of the Druid already. I did a Forest Gnome Circle of the Moon Druid. I really enjoyed it. That locked in my selection for launch, but I wanted to make one small change, which is going to be the switch over to a wood elf from a forest gnome. And someone asked me during the stream the other day, is that an aesthetic choice, like a personal preference for the way they look, or does it have something to do with the stats and abilities that druids get? And I had to admit that it's a little bit of both. And I kind of want to walk you through that today with this video on what to expect from my playthrough of a druid in Baldur's Gate 3 as the game launches. It's so close. It's like, what, a day or two away? I don't know when this is launching, by the way, so it could be tomorrow. You never know. Anyway, let's talk druid and what I'm going to be playing through the game for the first time. So, we got in front of me a representation because, of course, the UI is going to be slightly different. Character creation is slightly different in the launch version, so we're still dealing with the pre-launch edition of the game here, but it's all good. Most of what we need to know is already here. So I'm going to be going with a Wood Elf Druid. Now, why Wood Elf? Well, for me, when you get to the Wood Elf, some of the things that I focus on are not really the stats. The +2 dex, whether or not that's there or not at launch, I don't want to, I don't really, the stats don't bother me. It's the race features and some other stuff. So specifically, I like getting the proficiencies with the weapons, longsword, short sword, longbow, shortbow. That essentially allows my druid to, in a pinch, if necessary, and only if necessary, pull out a longbow and start pew-pewing from a distance. That's probably going to be fairly rare that happens, but I like having the ability to do so because sometimes you're out of spells, you don't have camping supplies, you're facing a horde of low-level dungeon stuff, but it's still a chunk, and if you don't have any way to do range damage, you're kind of not able to do a lot if you're a spellcaster. But if you have some sort of a weapon that you can use, you can still contribute to the fights. So I like having the longbow proficiency because I can then sit back from a distance and pew-pew. It's that simple. Now, as far as what is my main weapon, well, I don't have a main weapon per se. This is a spell casting druid, so I'm primarily going to be focused on damage dealing from a distance. A favorite of mine is the spike growth stuff on the ground because it's hugely potent. It works a little bit different in Celasta. Here you have to really make sure you've got him in a choke point to use it because otherwise they will jump over it or be in a part of it and then jump over the rest of it. But if you can use it to your advantage, it's hugely powerful. So it's mostly focused on spell casting with this druid. But one thing I do want is a big old staff, like the staff he's got right now, which I think is pretty awesome if you look at. For me, this is the type of druid that I'm going for. I want the staff wielding druid. I don't want to say Gandalf. Let's say Merlin, maybe. I'm not interested in using like a blunt weapon or a scimitar and a shield. That's not the type of druid I'm creating. I am the two-handed staff, you shall not pass type of druid. So I like that. So for me, I'm always going to be going for two-handed weapons. And then if I need to do melee, I will be hybridizing and blending in the Circle of the Moon shape-changing abilities. It worked great in early access. I can't wait to see what it's like in the live game because it gives you that potency of going between animal form and human form and spell casting and jumping in to do some extra damage as a wolf or jumping in as a bear and doing some extra tanking. There's all these things you can do, harrying the foe from the flank with a bird form and blinding targets. You've got the web from the spider. Like, there's all these things that you could do, which is a lot of fun as a Circle of Moon Druid. But if I need to do any damage, I'll have a staff. But mostly I want the staff for whatever stats it brings me, the way it looks, and of course, if it has any clickable effects that we can use during combat, which is amazing. Other than that, the base racial speed is always nice. 10.5 meters is nice because if I were to play a halfling, which I had done in early access, one of the things is you're limited to 7.5 meters. Gnome, excuse me, I played a gnome, but it's the same thing. You only get 7.5, and so is that reduced movement speed was really driving me nuts. So I definitely want to get the base racial up, and then of course Mask of the Wild, which allows me to still do some stealth if I wanted to, and sneak around a little bit on the battlefield, which is cool. As far as proficiencies go, I went with the folk hero background, and that gives me stealth. Well, excuse me, that gives me animal handling and survival, both of which are useful to a druid. And then elf gives me perception, which is useful, and stealth because I'm a wood elf, so I get a little bit of an additional bonus to stealth, which is nice. Then as far as skills with proficiency, I could change these if I want to. I have animal handling, insight, nature, perception, and survival. I'm very happy with those choices. Then I have a bunch of skills without proficiency. The only downside to this character is they are not a very charismatic character that's going to be able to win a lot of conversations like the bard or the rogue might be able to. Even my sorcerer had, max charisma and was like winning every conversation. It was awesome. So as far as stats are going, it's going to look somewhat like this. Obviously, we'll be going through the character creation process live. I will be streaming all of that once the game is out on the 3rd, and I've got the download finished. But this is roughly what I'm looking at. Strength 10, Dex 12, Constitution 14, Intelligence 10, Wisdom 16, Charisma 12. If I really wanted to, I could probably drop the Constitution down 2 points and put them into Charisma and have a 14 Charisma, which I might do. I still have decisions to make, and once I get into the live version of the character creator, I will know exactly, because I'll be able to see all the changes they've made and adjust accordingly. But you can expect it to look something like this. That's a pretty solid build in my mind. And as far as cantrips and spells go, go back to class here. You have a variety of options to choose from, and there are more spells coming at launch, obviously. But for now, Shillelagh's okay. Thorn Whip is pretty cool, but you got to get kind of close to do it. So I'm okay with those. And then as far as this prepared spells, I took Animal Handling so that I can, or excuse me, Speak with Animals, not Animal Handling, because I already have Animal Handling from what I am, but I'd like to have Speak with Animals too. Takes up a spell slot. I'm okay with that. Healing Words so that I can do something from a distance. I don't want to have to use Cure Wounds, which means I'm up there close and personal. I am not the group's primary healer, but I like having a spell ready as a backup. And then I've got Entangle and Thunderweave. Now, I don't have a ton of damage spells yet, but I will get more damage spells, plus the launch of the game is bringing more stuff to us. But that's okay because we have Shape-Shifting to balance this out. So right now, my druid is mostly a utility druid with the DPS coming from animal forms. But as you level up, you get more spells here, and that makes you more potent in the spellcasting division, and you can start blending more spellcasting in with everything else. Plus, as long as you've got Thorn Whip at your disposal, you do have to be within 9 meters of the target. But this is a nice little low-level 1 to 6 ka-chong, and it pulls the target if it lands, which is nice. It can't be pulled if it's huge, but still, it's a really fun thing to see in action and when it goes off. So, in any case, everybody, this is essentially the class build that I'm running with from launch day. Like I said, Wood Elf, Druid, Circle of the Moon is what I'm planning to do. And I will be playing through with Shadowheart in my party. I will be romancing Shadowheart. I will be taking Lae'zel as my warrior, and I will be taking Gale as my wizard. So if you watched the previous playthroughs in Early Access when I played that combo of characters, that's the exact same thing I'm doing here. The only switch is I went from Forest Gnome to Wood Elf. So hopefully that's what you're looking for. Thanks to those of you who've been tuning into the live stream and asking for videos on request. I'm happy to do these for the fans of the channel. If you haven't already done so, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update. Don't forget to join the Discord. Links are down below. Join as a member, support with a super chat, whatever you can. We'll see everybody in the next live stream or video. Until then, everybody, stay safe, happy gaming. Baldur's Gate 3 is upon us.